The time is still. Mhm. A very good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Very
morning,
good
sir.
morning. Very good morning. And most probably, we have started this artificial intelligence subject uh, just 1 month earlier, and we have almost completed the first unit in the terms of the theory part. But the implementation part of the first unit most probably is not completed. In the terms of how do you implement a tic-tac-toe game, how can you write a Python program for implementing a small game called as tic-tac-toe game or nim game. How can we implement this water jug problem with a small Python or Java program? These things we need to do, and a small intuition towards how can we develop a small boat. These parts actually we have missed in the first unit, but these parts are not there in the syllabus, but this has to be the most emphasis, or this has to be the more important things that you need to take from the classes that we have taken so far. Anyway, what is the try to do in this class is we are just moving towards unit 2, and I wish to just summarize what actually happened in the first unit. And the most important thing that we have in this class is what are the topics that we are going to discuss in unit 2, and how does your unit 2 will help you to have a different understanding of artificial intelligence. This is what the class is. So welcome again to this online artificial intelligence classes. We are in a session 19, which talks about only the concepts that we have studied so far. Then we'll see what exactly will be there in the second unit, and we need to have an assignment that can be submitted before 7th of this month, so that you just try to write something what actually happened for the last 1 month, so that you will also have some awareness of what actually that was done in the classes. So we have taken almost 16 to 17 classes to complete the first unit. So what was pending in the first unit is the implementation of tic-tac-toe game in the terms of heuristic was pending. I intentionally kept that pending. The reason is the heuristic part again will come in second unit. Though in second unit again this tic-tac-toe game playing will come. So obviously we will discuss there. It will take 20 to 30 minutes, not more than that. But apart from that, we have discussed more things like what are the recent advancements of AI, and what does your AI must have. All the things I have discussed, but most important discussions that happened in the last month is about we spoke about AI applications. Apart from that, we have discussed about how many definitions are there, what type of mechanisms are there. This is what we have discussed. But the most important discussion that we have done in the last month is about the type of AI applications, the diversity of AI applications, and the need of AI applications, the variations of AI applications. This is what we have seen. We spoke about many applications which were not there in the syllabus. Particularly these applications we have taken 2 or 3 classes to ensure that you need to believe that AI is everywhere. AI is an integral part of everyone's life now. So when AI is augmented with IoT, what will happen when AI has a strong technology that was called as deep learning? What will happen? How deep learning will be used to address various problems in the terms of how do you process voice, how do you process images, how do you process videos. This is what the intuition that I have laid to make you to interested toward this subject. So we spoke about IBM Watson, we talk about Tesla, we spoke about Mycin, we spoke about Hawkeye, we spoke about how this apps in the terms of Google Apps will get the data, like what is the traffic at this moment, what is the condition of the roads at that moment, and based on that how does Google Maps will give you the shortest path between two places. And mostly you can talk about the recommendation systems, like you could see how this Amazon is suggesting you the product references, how it is suggesting, because it is learning something from you, like the way in which you procure things, it is going to learn, and based on that it is going to predict what type of procuring that you can do in future. And what is the emotional intelligence of the customer? See, the customer has returned the product, and the Amazon or some a company, e-commerce company, has refunded the amount immediately. Then what will happen? Then what is the nature of the customer's behavior? If the refunded amount is deviated from the actual norms of the company, then what is the nature of the customer? It's all about, if you remember Cognito, if yesterday you could see this Cognito in the paper, like Cognito itself is an AI based product which was built based on machine learning and deep learning to assess the emotional intelligence of your customers, how customers are sentimentally bound to some. See, I wish to buy something called as a printer. In general, the first thing I do is I will search it on Amazon, then I will search it on Flipkart, and so on and so forth. Why people are emotionally, or why people try to believe Amazon, if it is in my case. Earlier in 2012 and 2013, when you wish to buy some books or even laptops also, we used to use a Flipkart. It depends. Earlier you have many websites in the terms of eBay, many other websites are more competitors. But the interest is, how does the customer behavior can be tracked? How does the customer, every customer, how does we learn and how does we predict something which, what does the customer will behave? So what is the important thing that we discussed about AI applications is, how does your artificial intelligence having the statistical data will accommodate dynamic data? That's what some people are talking about. Stock market. Stock market will change with respect to the news articles. Stock market will change with respect. See, still some disturbance was there. So stock market variations will happen with respect to the political tension it will take, based on the news articles that was reported, and many of that health of the company in the terms of closing price. Apart from that, the stockholders that a company have, the liquidity that have, that all these parameters will change with respect to time. That is the reason. Simple. Every time when I'm talking about this AI application, we are talking about weather prediction, what type of static parameters are there, what are dynamic parameters. All these AI applications are very important in a larger context, not with respect to the external exams. So if somebody wish to work in AI, what are the minimum components? What are the minimum components of AI? Without that, AI cannot proceed. The minimum prerequisite for AI or ML or deep learning is a database. Then you have a system called as inference mechanism, which will communicate and it will take some decisions. And you have a user interface and other things will come. But the most important component of AI is your database management system, and then you need to have a control strategy, and you need to have an inference mechanism. All three must be there. Many other components will come and go, but all these three must be there. So inference mechanism is the mechanism to infer knowledge from the raw data that we have. Sometimes that raw data is incomplete. That is the reason most of the time when we talking about AI applications, we talk about the fuzzy nature of the applications. How could you take decisions from the incomplete and partial data? Still, that decision that you take is significantly good, so that the companies will believe you in making the decisions. So we spoke about components of AI in the terms of what is a control strategy. Control strategy is an algorithm or a classifier which will make you move from one place to other place based on some conditions. Many times these control strategies will have this particular heuristic that is attached to that. So this is what detailed discussion was done in the components of artificial intelligence. because the components of AI that we discussed are the basic prerequisites for developing any app or any system that is pertaining to either AI and machine learning or deep learning. So then we spoke about a production system or a rule-based system. We have learned that production system by using an example called as water jug, and you could, by the time we're having this class, you have seen many types of water jug problems are there. You can go for 6-9, 4-3, 6-2, many types, different types of jugs are there, and the same type of problem will be given. How do you get 3 gallons in some jug, something like that. But the interest of this introducing this concept in the first unit is how does you represent the problem in the terms of rules. How does you make actions? Fill this 3-gallon jug, fill the you. How do you prescribe the actions? Then how do you generalize the actions in the terms of rules? And then how do you analyze? And then how do you implement by using a strategy? This is what you learned in water jug problem, which is very important because most of the AI systems are rule-based systems. If this happens, then this will happen. Then the other things may happen. Based on that, we just try to have an inference. Every time you take about a Mycin program that was written initially in Prolog, everywhere if he is suffering with cough and he is suffering with sneezing and a big program they used to write, but that programs are not there now because everything was replaced in the terms of Python. Whatever we have written like 200 or 300 lines that we have written in Prolog will be equivalent to 30 or 40 lines in Python itself. So whatever activities that are done earlier by using Lisp and Prolog, now we are doing with Python, R, and MATLAB. So these three, what I said, are called as modern AI languages because most of the classifiers will be available even in MATLAB, R, and Python. But we prefer Python. The reason is the scope of expansion is more and the number of libraries to support AI are also more. So through water jug problem, what is that you have learned is how do you write rules, how do you define actions, how do you use these rules to generate your target that is called as goal. And before having a production system, you need to go for analysis, you need to identify a starting state and a final state. All these are discussed in detail so that whenever people talk about production system, you need to understand how do you represent that, you start working on that. So once you start working and analyzing the problem, obviously the implementation part will be very easy. So that is my intention of having this water jug problem in the first class. And we have seen the considerable theory also, what are the steps in this production system, and that part we have taken. But the most important part is how do you represent the rules and how do you use the rules from one state to other state. So other important thing that we have studied in this water jug problem is water jug problem and production systems will be used when people talk about robotics. When you create a robot, what will happen is you need to define the actions that are permissible. Once you define the action, you need to also tell you the prerequisites on which that action is applied. So then see, I said I'm designing a robot to move a bench from one room to other room. Then it will have permissible actions and non-permissible actions. For every action there is a prerequisite. And the same action which was applied in the room 1 cannot be applied in room 2 for various reasons. So this is how the intuition that was laid in the terms of water jug problem. Then we have seen a tic-tac-toe game, because tic-tac-toe game I am talking since the first class onwards in a different context, because every time people talk about AI application, they will think AI in the terms of games, because everywhere you play a chess game, your expertise and intelligence will be reflected in the way in which you play the game. The same way that you play a tic-tac-toe game, or the way in which you play a NIM game, or any other two-player information games. Wherever people try to have in the terms of two players, then we think in the terms of whether it is a chess game or a tic-tac-toe game, any other game. So people, when they think about AI application, the first thing they will think is about how do you implement the games. That is the reason we have three different types of techniques that are there in the syllabus that we have discussed in detail. But the second part, like we have an algorithm where I spoke about something called as 3 into 3 into 2, 18, and I spoke about 5 into 5 into 2, that is called as 50. We have an algorithm that we have to discuss. That algorithm will again come in the second unit. That is the reason I just postponed that algorithm, so that when the second unit starts, obviously this tic-tac-toe game, the second algorithm will be discussed and the first unit will be complete theoretically. Theoretically we can complete, but you need to implement some games. How do you with some heuristic or with your own strategy, then only the purpose of taking these classes leisurely and very slowly will have a significant impact. So tic-tac-toe game, two variations we have seen. One variation talks about changing the values of the stored things, and the second implementation talks about changing the positions. Changing the values, two different strategies we have taken. We have assigned values 0, 1, 2. The second strategy we have assigned 2, 3, 5 for various reasons. You need to think here why you have taken 2, 3, 5. Why can't be 2, 3, 4? So this is how you need to think here. So in the next strategy that we have changed the positions of the cube, that is called 3 by 3 matrix, that we have changed the positions, and then we have designed a classifier where when you add column wise or row wise in the diagonal wise, you are getting a value called as 15. This is what we have discussed. And then we try to predict what is the next move of the opponent, what is the next move of mine. And indeed, when you play any two-player perfect game, the intention of your moves are you need to win or you need to go for a tie. In general, when we write the particular programs, what is that we do is we will ensure that every time computer has to win or computer has to go for a draw. This is how these programs are written. So tic-tac-toe game, enough discussion was done, but the intuition was light. But the converting that intuition into practical, how do you implement these games? I think most probably most of you are not tried, and this is a right time to try and think differently from other people, so that you have your own profile that is generated, and the way in which you think differently or the way in which you implement differently will have will gives you more confidence, so that you can stand see in a 194 students, if at least 50 students able to implement this, and at least 20 or 30 they are implementing in a different strategy. Because tic-tac-toe game, if you see your internet, it you have different versions. At least you will have different versions in the terms of 120 different types of programs you can get. So there are different strategies. One strategy based on this. There is other strategy called as multi-dimensional cube, where where you use that multi-dimensional cube, then you will get the tic-tac-toe game done within 4 to 5 steps. You can go for a check. So this is how you need to explore in the terms of whether you refer the textbooks, because textbooks are already shared with you. You can read the textbooks, because English, learning English from reading skills, reading that textbook is very important. Because English writing, see, uh, we have a company that was visiting our campus on 4th and 5th and 6th. It seems to be the dates are changed, but see, apart from that, what is it, the concern of the second company visiting our campus is essay writing. How do you write an essay? The first company, what it was, Capgemini, the emphasis is on how do you read a paragraph and how do you infer an answer. So it depends, because English is a part where most of the companies are focusing. So you read the textbook, you have a different way of understanding. You have a different way of expertise. I'm just moving fast because all these discussions are done earlier. So I am moving fast so that I can introduce the syllabus of the second unit. Then we spoke about send more money, but most of the discussion that was happened with respect to send more money was happened from 3 to 4. Two classes we have taken, but the intention of taking this send more money is to just tell you there is a technique called as what is that we call it as, we can call it as a heuristic with constraints or constraint satisfaction, or any many names are that, but you can take it as constraint satisfaction. You have many problems with constraints. How do you propagate the constraints and solve the problem? Sometimes we assume, Sometimes we move from one state to other state and there is a contradiction, I will come back, and so on and so forth. By the time we're going to the second unit, you might have solved at least one or two problems like this. Send more money type of problem. These problems will come, or these problems can be seen also in Shakuntala Devi puzzles, when most of the people talk about puzzles in the terms of whether it is an Infosys or whether it is a Capgemini. So this type of thinking is very important in all contexts, not only for AI, in the interest of general. So we spoke about when you try to address the problems of AI, we spoke about whether the problem is decomposable, is the universe is predictable, is the output is absolute or relative, does it needs interaction, what is the role of dynamic data, many things we have seen. All these are very simple that there is no need of discussing this again. So this is what we have completed in the first unit, and this first unit is mostly connected to now your second unit, because the first unit we spoke about last class. If you remember, I introduced something called as BFS and DFS. This is how I start with 0 0 and I will get 0 4 from here and I will get 0 3 from here. This is what we call it as BFS. I said DFS also will be there. So the same discussion, the same line of discussion that happened in the first unit will be there in the second unit. So if you wish to introduce, because this part is very important, because introducing the units are very important, then you know the sequence of happenings. Because so tomorrow's class we will be talking about exhaustive searches. Exhaustive searches are searches without any bounds. They are called as blind searches. Blind searches means there is no heuristic. You don't know, see, BFS is there. See, I have a tree, and you apply algorithm called as BFS, you will get all the probable solutions. So a search or an algorithm without heuristic, we call it as an exhaustive search. So we have two algorithms like BFS and DFS, and branch and bound algorithm will be there. We call them as exhaustive searches, innate searches. And tomorrow we'll talk about what will happen if your algorithm does not have any heuristic. This is what we do tomorrow. And day after tomorrow, when we are meeting on Friday, we discuss about what will happen if you have an algorithm which will help you to move from one state to other state based on a heuristic. Breadth first search was there, depth first search was there. We have an algorithm called as best first search that will come in this heuristic. Best first search. Best first search is a combination of DFS and BFS. Best first search is a combination of DFS and BFS with a heuristic. So there is no need that every time you have to use a DFS or a BFS. I said you can use it in a combination. That combination, the name of the algorithm is a best first search. So best first search is a combination of somewhere in while exploring the nodes, I will use DFS. After some time I use BFS. After some time I use BFS based on some conditions. That condition is called as a heuristic. So this is very important. This algorithm is very important. The refined best first search algorithm, we will call it as an A star algorithm. A refined best first search algorithm is called as A star algorithm. Just 1 minute. Are you getting any disturbance from this my end? Can somebody unmute and just answer this?
No, sir.
No. Okay, we'll go ahead. So, like most probably when we meet on Friday, we'll be talking about an algorithm called as best first search, which is a combination of BFS and DFS. Then the refined algorithm of best first search, when you talk about FGH, some parameters will be there. Based on these parameters, we try to design an algorithm. We call it as an A star algorithm. So the first class we speak about implementing BFS and DFS by using open and close structure. Open and close are the data structures that are used for all the four algorithms. It is A star algorithm, this open and close will be there. BFS, DFS algorithm, it will be there. Best first, it will be there. So what is open? Sometimes open is a stack, sometimes open is a queue, because you said BFS can be implemented by using queue, something like that. So open will change with respect to time. If you are implementing BFS, open can be something, closed can be something, but every time when you see that closed is a stack. So we'll discuss about all these things. Then we will go to this constraint satisfaction. Again, we'll come in the second unit with the same theme. The same thing that we seen like constraint satisfaction, we will discuss in the terms of a small a representation in the terms of 4 steps. Like how does a constraint satisfaction algorithm will work. Again, we will take some other example that was not in the context of send more money. We will take some other example and solve this. Constraint satisfaction was discussed in the first unit. The same thing was there here with a different context. But you have some steps that has to be followed. While assumptions, what is that you do is you need to assume something which has 100% probability. If that 100% probability is not there, you need to assume something with at least 50% probability that we have discussed. But we will see 5 steps that has to be followed while applying this constraint satisfaction problem. This constraint satisfaction problem is as good as your send more money problem. So it will take 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that. So we have problem reduction, like when you have a big modules, like when you try to design a project, you divide the project into sub modules. I said some modules are dependent and some modules are independent. What will happen if you have more independent modules? So if more independent modules, what they do is we will go for parallelism. You can apply random forest algorithm, any algorithm to build the things parallelly and then integrate. So in parallel problem reduction, we try to understand the problem and try to reduce the way in which you divide the problem into subtasks. And this discussion is a theoretical discussion that will happen or it will take at most one class. So game playing is the most important part of the entire second unit, because what will happen if 2 players start playing the game? How does the situations dynamically change? Like in a chess game, what will happen for every move that will happen between 2 players? Does there is information in the terms of moving from one state to other state? Does the information is clear? Like if I move from this state to other state, is there any guarantee that I will win that game? That type of games we call it as perfect information games. Like see, you cannot play the game blindly. When there is a probable information, like if you move from this state to this state, there is a chance that you can win at that moment. If that type of knowledge is there, we call that as a perfect information game. Based on that we'll go, but sometimes that move will not be an appropriate move also, based on the opponent way of answering your move. So it will change with respect to time. The heuristic values will change with respect to time, and the winning probability will change with respect to the time. Time means the way in which your opponent plays. So game playing is very important. The last one is the most important part of your entire second unit. We call it as a min-max algorithm. In min-max algorithm, we try to, when I play the game, I talk about min. When the opponent plays the game, I talk about when I play the game, I talk about max. When opponent plays, I talk about min. The reason is every time I see to win, and every time my opponent we need to get a minimum value so that he may be defeated at some point of time. So this alpha beta pruning will be something like we construct tree. The first root level I play the game, the next level B plays the game, and the next level I play the game, so on and so forth. The levels, what we'll see is we go on what is that enlarging the tree by our moves. So that is called as, that algorithm I am talking about is called as min-max algorithm. So every time I just try to win, so I will talking about max, and every time the opponent I will see in the terms of minimizing. So every time I try to have a minimum value for him. So min-max algorithm is there. What will happen if the min-max algorithm is augmented with alpha beta values? Like when you explore the tree from top to bottom, somewhere I can say that this part there is no need to explore. If I'm talking about the maximum part, that no need to explore because I reached a maximum value, I call it as alpha cutoff. When I'm talking about minimum value, there is no need to explore the right part, I call it as beta cutoff. It will take some time to understand. But the overall structure of the entire units must be there in your brain, because this is how we need to plan, this is how you need to plan, and this is how you need to execute. So I'm just erasing everything and I just have an inference and just conclude this class. So what is that I told about the second unit is, second unit is very important because you are talking about the implementation most of the time, and we see BFS and DFS getting implemented by using open and closed data structure. Exhaustive searches are searches without heuristics. That's what I said. Heuristic searches are searches which will take some combination of algorithms with a heuristic. The example for this is a best first search. Best first search is a combination of DFS and BFS. The refined value of DFS and best first search we call it as a A-star algorithm, which is very important, which is an extension of best first search. Constraint satisfaction is what we have done in the first unit, the same thing we do, but we will see the 4 steps that are involved in this constraint satisfaction problem. How do you assume, how do you back propagate, how do you propagate? Only 3 steps are there that we have seen, and we will see it again for 10 to 15 minutes. Problem reduction, I said when you try to design a project, you try to divide it into a set of dependent and independent modules. So what will happen if you have more dependent modules? What will happen if it is independent modules? That is a theory that that can be we talk about under our graphs there when we are talking about problem reduction. And game playing is the most important, because every time when people talk about it, they talk about how do you play a game in the terms of how does the opponent loses. The same thing we will discuss here. But most importantly, I feel this last part is very important, because we talk about a min-max algorithm here, and this part is also important in the context of whatever it may be, whether it is implementation or any other thing. So last part we talk about min-max algorithm and how what will happen if the min-max algorithm will be augmented with alpha beta cutoffs. This is a very important algorithm. Min-max algorithm itself is an algorithm, and alpha beta pruning is an algorithm. So we try to have different type of algorithms in the second unit. That is the reason this is very important. Here exhaustive searches you are learning in the terms of open and closed by using BFS and DFS. Here best first search. Here A star. Constraint satisfaction itself is a procedure and algorithm. Problem detection there is an algorithm. Alpha beta pruning you have 2 algorithms. So almost the entire unit which was in your forthcoming classes are about algorithms, and even some of them were not there in the syllabus, like hill climbing, branch and bound, other algorithms also, dynamic bounding. All these things are not there in the syllabus, but we need to discuss them in a larger interest. So if what was there in the second unit is very important, the output of the second unit is how do you implement the games and how do you generate a strategy in the terms of heuristic. So the outcome of the second unit is very simple. How do you develop algorithms with a heuristic? How heuristic is vital is what the outcome of the second unit theoretically, but practically what is the outcome is at least you need to implement 2 or 3 games, and because A-star algorithm the code is available outside, so obviously you can implement this A-star algorithm. You can just modify the rubric or heuristic so that you will get a different values for this A-star algorithm. So implementation part is more in particularly in second unit, the reason is when you try to implement constraint satisfaction problem, if you succeed 60 to 70% implementing this constraint satisfaction problem, whether you take this earn more money or any other problem and solve this, obviously you are thinking on AI is in a right direction, and most probably you can solve most of the important problems in AI. So just my intention of this class is just to introduce what actually happened earlier and introduce what actually happened in the next classes, because this is very important, because most of the people I felt in this class are very interested in working on AI. So when the algorithms are there, we need to think about how do you what is that we do is how step by step understanding of algorithm is very important, because every class, when I complete the class tomorrow, like we are talking about open and close and talking about two algorithms, when you go home you need to implement, you see the algorithm and just trace the algorithm, so that the next class will be very easy, because all these classes are connected. That is the reason I'm just explicitly explaining what will happen in the second unit. If you understand BFS and DFS in the terms of open and close, then your best first search algorithm will be easily understood. When the best first search algorithm is understood, then you can understand A star algorithm, because A star algorithm itself is a best first search algorithm. So if you understand the first unit constraint satisfaction problem, most of the people are well versed, because people are solving, I could understand. So if you understand tic-tac-toe problem, it's very easy to understand this alpha beta pruning and min-max search. So at least 3 or 4 classes are connected. So every time when I take a class, I'm just connecting the last class with the earlier class, so that people can understand. But you need to take second unit very seriously, because second unit talks about how do you generate algorithms with heuristic. Again, I'm just repeating the output or outcome of the second unit is how do you develop algorithms with a heuristic. How does the heuristics will help you or will guide the algorithms to get the output faster. This is what it is. Still some problem was there. Okay. So the practical outcome of the second unit is very important. Like how do you implement these constraint satisfaction problems? How do you implement this A star algorithms? How do you implement this min-max algorithm? Is the practical output. The second, third slide that I kept is very easy for you, because I'm just trying to make you to write an assignment here. You need to write an assignment on a piece of paper, and you can just share it, like you can scan it and you can upload here in this form, so that there is a chance that you can also read the textbook. That's what my intention is. So I'm just sharing this link in this chat box. Apart from that, I will also send this link to your emails, so that you will know what type of questions are asked, because all these questions that we have discussed now, discuss various applications of AI. You can write in detail. You can write about Cognito that we are talking yesterday. Various components of AI that you can find this in your textbook. All this can be found in the textbooks. You can just try to write this and submit this before 7th. 7th will be most probably on Monday. So it will make you to just read the textbook and just find out what type of questions will be there in the first unit. So when you write this, just write your roll number, name, and just try to upload this as a PDF, and the name of the PDF should be your roll number, because every aspect that we have to do for the 3 months has to be online, and this has to be like this only. So once you click this form, you will be asked to enter your name and section and roll number. Then you can submit this PDF from this form itself. It's very easy for you, but spend some time on answering the queries, answering the questions, so that will make you more comfortable. Then what is that I do is I will again I share the information like material that we have prepared. I will share it for the first unit most probably by tomorrow. So I will also take the attendance here. And surprisingly, when we started taking the classes, initially the number of people who are attending the class are more. Like in the first class itself, I got more than 170. But surprisingly, when we start taking the classes seriously, the number of people attending the classes become less. Now I could see 154 out of 194 are attending. It implies that 40 are absent. So it should not be the case, because tomorrow onwards we are dealing with the more serious algorithms which have a significant impact. So obviously you need to attend the classes. So I just conclude this class today now here, and tomorrow when we are meeting we will discuss about